So welcome, everyone. My name is Beth Carter. I am the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Business Competition. This is actually the start of my third year, but with COVID and everything, I'll be honest with you, I feel like I barely had 6 months and then we went virtual. So I can't begin to tell you how happy I am to be back at Venture Cafe, to see people in person. And frankly, I have never met these three people in front of me in the true sense of the word. So I am so happy because I feel like I know them very well, but have never seen them. So anyway, so tonight is our kickoff. We start our 2022 season. And really, there's a lot of events coming up. Our pitch contest, pitch workshop is going to be on October 21st. We're hoping it will still be virtual, still in person, we're hoping. And Peter George actually spoke last year. So perfecting your pitch is one of the most important things when you are talking to people about your business. And all three of these can contest to that. So Peter is an excellent communication specialist. He gives you really great tips on how to perfect your pitch. In November is our pitch contest. Again, I hope it's in person. And we hear pitches from all different types of businesses. You get 90 seconds to really promote your business to others. And last year we had about 45 pitches, which for COVID is pretty good. The year before we had 86 because it was in person. Even if you don't want to pitch, I strongly suggest you come. It's a super fun night. You meet a lot of great people. A lot of our sponsors come as an example. And then the application for those of you who are interested will start in January and then will be due in March. So if you go on the RI-Business website, you could see that. One other little thing I want to promote is we have a new logo. We have a new website. And if you're feeling like you need something for the back of your computer, we have stickers for all of you. So please take one if you need it. So anyway, I don't want to keep talking. I want to introduce our moderator, Anthony Mangiorelli. He is a partner with KLR, which is one of the major accounting firms in Rhode Island. And he is one of the co-chairs for the Rhode Island Business Competition. So thank you. I hope you have a great time. And here you go.
Thank you, Beth. I used to being up in front of a room of people, used to seeing tiles of faces. So this is, and what's interesting is Beth can say she's never met these people. There's three people. We've never been in the same room together till tonight, but you're all a lot taller than you seem on Zoom. Yeah. So we are excited that the Rhode Island Business Competition 2022 has launched, even despite the times we are still all living in. I am very excited, and it is great that we all are able to be here in person to start off a new year. This is probably like my, the 15th year, thereabouts. And for those that are not aware, our organization is the longest running community supported competition in the Northeast. And I'm happy to say that over the last 2 years, as we've kind of weathered the storm, we didn't just have the competition to have it to say that we continued that trend. We actually had some of our best winners in my memory, and I'm excited that they're here tonight to talk about their experiences. And please keep in mind, we are totally supported by our sponsors, which include private companies, service organizations, public agencies, colleges and universities, banks, investors, but most importantly, former competitors. And we hope someday that the three individuals on the stage will be so wildly successful that they will be able to write big checks so that we can continue the being that longest running community supported competition in New England. This ongoing support from our sponsors really enables the competition to function every year, which allows entrepreneurs in Rhode Island to build a business framework to transform their idea into reality. We have had a lot of success. So we formed back in 2000. And since then, we've had over 50 previous competitors that are still making a huge impact on the economic development here in our state. They're growing, they're expanding their businesses here. They're hiring employees, they're buying from suppliers and service providers. And most importantly, they support the economic ecostructure here in Rhode Island, as well as the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Rhode Island, which is still really strong. So before we begin, once again, I'll just I'll thank you all for being here. I mean, I really appreciate everybody coming out tonight. This is our gateway back into the world, it feels like, and I'm pretty excited to be able to moderate this panel. I'd like to just acknowledge our partner, Venture Cafe, who's producing tonight's event. They've been a great supporter to our competition, as well as I'd be remiss if I did not recognize our amazing Bryant social media team that will be doing all things social media for us to get the word out. And hopefully by our next event, which I hope will be in person, we'll have to add a lot more chairs to this room. So once again, I'll just please allow me to introduce myself, Anthony Mangiorelli, partner with KLR. It's an alphabet soup of accounting firm. That's what you're used to. But what I really focus on, what I love doing is working with entrepreneurs and helping them grow their businesses, because they really are the backbone of the economy. And so tonight, I want to introduce you to 3 newer entrepreneurs that are wildly amazing when you listen to their stories. And I want to just give them 30 seconds to explain what their companies do and who they sell to and anything else they feel is important to communicate. So immediately to my left is Melissa Bowley, who is the founder and CEO of the Flourish Fund, who was our 2021 winner. And immediately to her left is Abbie Kohler, who was our co-founder and CEO of ResusciTech, which was one of our 2020 winners, as well as to her left is Jonathan Lord, who's the co-founder and CTO of Flux Marine, who was also one of our 2020 winners. So I guess we'll start with Melissa, and if you can give us a quick 30-second take on what the company does, who you sell to, and anything else the world should know.
It's nice to meet you in person, actually, after all of that screen time. So nice to meet you all. My name, again, is Melissa Bowley, CEO and founder of Flourish Fund. And really, our platform is a new platform that empowers pregnant women to really shift the spending from all that baby gear that really collects dust in the corner to wellness services that can really support moms. So think about lactation counselors, sleep consultants, doulas, the things that really do make an impact. So we've got an amazing network of providers, 155 in New England. We're growing strong. We've got revenue in the door now, and that's all thanks to the Rhode Island Business Competition. So thank you so much. And I'm excited to be here with my fellow winners from the last year.
Thank you. I guess the question I have is there more COVID dogs or COVID babies? Do we know?
That's a great question. If I had to guess, I would actually say probably COVID dogs.
Yeah. So invest in pet food companies, and I think that's what we're hearing. Abbie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Abbie Kohler. I'm co-founder and CEO of ResusciTech, and we provide engaging CPR education and hands-on chest compression practice in a smartphone. So you don't have to go in person to a 6-hour boring CPR class anymore. You can take a 90-minute gamified course right from your phone, anywhere you are. And right now we're selling primarily to businesses, mostly in the fitness industry, to relieve the operational burden of getting all of their fitness instructors trained. So we're selling directly B2B and also through partners who are in the fitness industry who certify fitness instructors.
Great, thank you. And how about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming tonight. My name is Jonathan Lord. I'm a co-founder and CTO of Flux Marine. We design and manufacture electric marine propulsion systems to offer the first true alternative to combustion engines. And so we're able to offer a hassle-free boating experience, which is 3 words that you never really hear together until now.
So the way tonight's event's going to work, I've got some predetermined questions for the panelists. I'm going to go through them. But if you have questions, we'll have some time at the end where we'll ask the audience to throw some questions up at them. And hopefully it's organized chaos, but it will be organized. So let's start with Jonathan. I guess the question that I always start off with is, what motivated you to apply to the competition?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it was during the COVID era. We were still very much bootstrapping until the end of 2020. We had been very much relying on pitch competitions. We were originally based in Boston, but with COVID, everything was very much shut down. So we decided to relocate to Rhode Island. And so we're kind of looking at the opportunities available and kind of the resources, the mentorship, and as well as the connections to other startup community members was a really valuable opportunity. And that's something that we just really didn't have an opportunity to engage with in Massachusetts. So that just really compounded the drawing factor to Rhode Island in general. And then from then, we've continued to kind of collaborate with other startups as well. And it's been a great experience overall.
That's amazing to hear. One of the things we've always heard from entrepreneurs is, Massachusetts, there's more money there, let's be honest. But at the end of the day, it's a very fragmented ecosystem. Whereas in Rhode Island, you can spend probably 6 weeks here and meet everybody you need to meet to launch a business and be successful. And there's definitely something to be said for that. Also, it is a ghost town right now. You can drive right up to a door here in Rhode Island, which makes a big difference. Can't get food either in downtown Boston. Everything's closed. I know that because I was there yesterday. Same question actually to Abbie. What motivated you?
My answer is much simpler. It was the money. We're bootstrapping. We had won a few other grants, but we needed funding in order to continue development and to keep going. So the potential of a check was really what motivated us, and all the resources. There are incredible resources. We were already based in Rhode Island and experiencing all of the amazing things in this community, which I'm so lucky to be a part of. There are so many resources here. If you've ever heard me talk at a Venture Cafe event before, I've spoken at a few of them. I like to say that there are more resources here than there are people to take advantage of them, because it's just true. There are so many opportunities here, which I'm very, very grateful for. So for the competition itself, we wanted the funding and the resources that came with that funding as well, the in-kind services.
So see, I was wrong. There is money in Rhode Island, Massachusetts. There's none.
There's a lot of money
Stay in
here.
Rhode Island. Melissa, how about yourself? What's motivating you to apply?
That's a great question. So for me, it was actually one of my employees. So she brought it to my attention. I had not heard of it. So I definitely want to do my part to get the word out there now that I've been part of this. And really, it's really catapulted our business to the next level. But for us, we were doing friends and family round. We were securing those dollars. And this went a long way to actually launching a marketing campaign that we were trying to get up off the ground with our friends and family round. So this was really, really critical for us. So as soon as I found out about it, I got really excited. Didn't realize how many amazing resources there were in Rhode Island, and now have been able to take advantage of all of them. So it was kind of happenstance, but I felt very fortunate that that I found out about it, and now I definitely want to spread the word as much as possible.
Great, thank you. So to educate everybody on the process, there's an application process, and you can fill out your application right at our website. But to fill out the application, you don't have to necessarily have your business plan drafted yet. And this is something we want. Yeah, this is something we want to talk about. So you can't do the application and then get picked to be an entrant and have to do a business plan, because you wouldn't have the time. But tell us, let's stay with you, Melissa, because you're kind of seeing where I'm going with this. Tell us about completing the application. When did you get started? Just the pros and the cons of looking at that application and how daunting it was and deciding to apply.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I actually found out about it, I think a couple of weeks in advance of the application being due. But it was actually great. So I had done tons and tons of pitches at that point and was really building out the deck. So I was able to use what I had been building to fill in the application. And then when you make it to the next rounds, you actually can build upon that. And it actually provokes a lot of really interesting thoughts about your business that I went back and then revised my pitch as well. So I know it looks like a lot of detail, but it's stuff that you're going to be asked anyway. And I think just getting a head start on it and feeling that much more confident when I was out pitching, I've got this. I know my COGS, I know my, revenue plan, I know where I'm getting my distribution, where my distribution channels are, things like that, that you really do need to think through. So it really wasn't, it was a great first step. And then I think every step kind of builds upon that. And it was not daunting for us.
How about you, Abbie?
So my co-founder and I had applied the year before. So we already knew about the competition and knew we were going to apply again, because that first year we didn't even make it to the second round. So when we applied for the 2020, we started the initial application a couple of weeks in advance. We were pretty proactive, but we did not have a business plan fully drafted. So that was a bit of a scramble. we rushed to do it inside of maybe a week, spent a lot of time on it. Thankfully, we had the time to spend. It was COVID, and my co-founder and I were seniors at Brown. So it was during the time Brown had sent everyone home, and we had like a elongated spring break that we all thought we were going to get to come back from. That didn't happen. So we had the extra time, thankfully, to put together this application that worked out pretty well. And yeah, the pitch, thankfully, we had everything prepared from the business plan to put that together. And I realized that some of the answers we had put in the initial application were wrong when I had to actually build out a financial model rather than just kind of guess and hope that it made sense. When we put together the actual business plan, it was much more thorough. I would recommend starting that earlier. Just be optimistic and assume you're going to get into the second round so that when you do, we'll be optimistic again. You're not scrambling to put stuff together. That would make life much easier.
And so we're back from our 18-month spring break is what you're telling me. Jonathan, how about yourself?
Yes, so we've applied to more pitch competitions and start competitions than we really care to admit. So we had a lot of the questions kind of pre-scripted, but I think the real value with the Rhode Island Business Plan competition is succinctly combining all of these into one application. It really kind of, you learn the ins and outs and kind of where you're kind of repeating yourself and maybe where you're contradicting yourself in terms of kind of your business plan, your sales distribution models and things like that. So combining it into one, I think although it is daunting that it's such a one single large entry, I think there's a lot of value because ultimately, if you don't have the answer to these questions, then you're not ready to progress to the next stage. So although it's a difficult challenge, I think starting with plenty of time ahead. Unfortunately, I have a co-founder who is far better with numbers than I am. So I can pass on the hard questions to him and I'll just take the easy technology ones.
Did you consult with anyone else along the way there? Because you mentioned your co-founder, but was there anyone else you consulted with along the way when you were doing your application?
For the most part, we have a good distribution of skill sets among our co-founding team. So we have 2 technical co-founders and 1 financial co-founder. So we've done a lot of these competitions before. We've been through a few accelerated programs. So we do have a board of advisors and mentors at that point. So we kind of bounce some ideas off them in terms of kind of what they see as feasible. Projections are always a mix of an art and a science. So kind of learning what's reasonable is an ongoing learning experience. So kind of we're continuing to change and iterate on those. So we kind of communicated with our advisors and between kind of what we see as feasible, optimistic and realistic, and then how that should be presented and the narrative that you kind of present within the business plan.
Abbie, how about yourself? Can you talk about your team as well as if you did consult with anybody else?
Yeah, sure. So my co-founder and I wrote most of the application without consulting anyone and without looking for outside help. The exceptions to that were the financial projections because we had no sense of what was reasonable to project and no idea of like, do we want to overestimate and be really optimistic? Do we want to underestimate so that when we hit numbers above that, we look really great? And I think the real answer is just write what you actually think you can achieve. But that's where we sought the most help, was at the financial projections. And then for the pitch itself, I did do some pitch practice with advisors. I love to pitch, but it's always fun to keep improving and keep seeking help from advisors.
Yeah, who needs accountants? That's what you're telling us. Let's stay with because your company was already up and running, and you said you found out from an employee. So, I mean, talk about, did you consult with anybody about doing the application? Because it doesn't sound like you were on the pitch contest, like the way they were doing it quite a bit, or were you?
I think I was. So we do have employees, but they're like part-time moms who are helping out the business, which is amazing because we can give back. And one of those moms found the competition, but I would say I can't really do anything in isolation. So I always consult with my advisors. I lean pretty heavily on them. So I did consult with them. And one of the things I think with the application, you can save, right? I think that was like the most critical thing, was like I could go in, fill in part of it, save, come back, think about it, go back in, change everything I put in there. It was helpful to have that save button so I could get some of my thoughts down at that moment in time and then go back and revise it. So I think I spent a lot of time in there saving and resaving. But I actually ended up taking like screenshots of what I was putting in there and sending it to some of my advisors and getting some feedback from them, especially on the financial projections, because I wanted to be, we have a more optimistic financial model, right? As we expand, if we're going, into 7 cities versus 3, but I wanted to be realistic about what building a business in Rhode Island and greater New England would look like. So we stayed more actually on the conservative end of our financial model. So yeah, I would say it was definitely a team effort driven by me, but getting feedback along the way.
Now I think accountants do matter. So one of the things that I don't think anyone can really understand, and I know Beth and I saw this, was you didn't realize this, but when you got announced that you won and you hung on afterwards, your computer was still on, and your excitement to this day was amazing. And I think you were speaking with your parents, and you were just overwhelmed with excitement. And we were just so, in the middle of COVID, that was just so great to feel that we've actually have somebody who's excited to win and a great alumni. But immediately afterwards, I don't think a lot of people realize that is there's this bump, we call it the post business plan winning bump. So how did that immediately impact your company afterwards, other than, you giving the good news to your parents?
Yeah, we toasted champagne, which was amazing. And that was a very embarrassing moment when I came back to my Zoom and I was like, oh my God, you're still there. You heard all the like exciting cursing that was happening. So it was awesome. And I was on the phone, like co-founder, and my parents happened to be in from Chicago. So it was a very beautiful moment. But immediately we were actually, so we had this like marketing campaign that we wanted to kick off. We just didn't really have the funding to do at that moment in time. So obviously we had the excitement with the parents and everything, and everybody's calling me from, my family all around. But immediately afterwards, we were able to launch that marketing campaign. And from the time we won the competition to now, we've grown from like 50 users to 1,000 users, and over $900,000 in demand of these amazing services and wellness essentials. So it had a very, very immediate impact. And that got us on, Entrepreneur Magazine. We got on the Today Show. Like it really cascaded into a really incredible kind of cascade of events. So I was very grateful, and I didn't realize how much it was going to kind of snowball into something much bigger.
That's amazing to hear. And just to remind everybody, that was just last May. It does seem like it was years ago, but Abbie, May of 2020 seems like it was like many spring breaks ago. So can you share, you got a longer runway after the fact, but what was the impact afterwards?
The immediate impact was I turned to my co-founder and said, I guess we need to open a bank account now, because we didn't have one. And then we had more money to spend on development, to work on our prototype. We had a functioning prototype, but we needed something that we could actually beta test with users. So the money got us there. It was also just a huge stamp of credibility for us. Like I'm 23, I was 21, almost 22 when we won. So that was incredible. People tend to look at me in business meetings and think, oh my gosh, she's really young. Does she know what she's doing? That doesn't make sense. And winning the competition was proof that not only do I know what I am doing, a panel of judges thinks that my co-founder and I know what we're doing. So that was really incredible. And it led to a lot more people taking us seriously. I was able to talk about winning when I was trying to form a relationship with the American Heart Association, and that ended up with me participating in a competition that led to a $40,000 grant from them, and being featured on CNBC and a ton of other cool things. Immediately after the competition, the Rhode Island Business Competition itself, I was in Providence Business News. That was really fun. That was so cool. So the publicity, the outreach, the stamp of credibility and approval, and the money that allowed us to accelerate development and launch a beta test and eventually launch the app. And now we have revenue. We're really close to break even. So all of that's been really exciting progress since, May of 2020, which does feel like many spring breaks ago, but wasn't actually that long ago. So it's been great since winning.
Thank you. And Jonathan, how about yourself? Since May of 2020, Flux Marine, I mean, what immediately did the company realize? And then, over the last 18 months, has it continued or snowballed or stopped?
Absolutely. So the first benefit to winning was, in reality, access to food. That was a bootstrapping startup. That was something that we kind of would go to a lot of networking events because food is something that attracts a lot of startups. Since then, we've been fortunate to kind of continue with traction. At the time of the competition, we were going through some due diligence with a firm in Rhode Island. So actually kind of winning the event really kind of gave us credibility and helped us go on to secure our friends and family seed round. And since then, we've been able to scale the team. We've opened up a new office. We're located down in East Greenwich, Rhode Island, where we have a facility right on the water. So we have boats on the water now for customer demonstrations, a workshop where we're able to kind of fulfill the next 12 to 18 months worth of production, and then an office space as well, where we actually enable our new employees as of the start of this year to collaborate in person, which has done huge benefits for kind of the speed of development of the technology and overall growth of the company, really.
So let's stick with that. So what do you feel participating in the competition enabled you to do maybe more easily or quicker than you could have done? Because you just talked a lot about where you've been over the last 18 months in scaling. So, what do you think participating in the competition was able to allow you to do that you maybe couldn't have done, or maybe did it quicker because of it?
I would say it had great value in terms of validating the business plan that we were presenting to potential investors, because we had behind us the fact that we had just presented the same business plan to a panel of judges, and they've ultimately vetted that we won the money. So they proved that they kind of saw the viability towards the kind of longer term plan, and that's really helped us with investors to kind of show that there are other people who support what we're doing. We have a network within Rhode Island that's helping us. We have an array of mentors and advisors who are all locally based, and many of them came through the Rhode Island Business Plan competition. So it's really helped legitimize the company and helped us grow to increase the funding for locating future employees as well. A lot of them are kind of located in Providence, the local surrounding area. So it's helpful to find the talent that we need to grow and develop the technology.
Abbie, you mentioned that the grant you received and some media. Same question to you. What do you feel participating in the competition enabled you to do, either quicker or at all, by participating in the competition?
It definitely accelerated conversations that we wanted to be having. Like I mentioned, the American Heart Association grant that we were able to win. When I mentioned having won the MedTech track of the Rhode Island Business Competition, the American Heart Association seemed to trust me right away, which was very exciting. I think there would have been a lot more conversation and a lot more time involved. So that really helped. And I think it mostly just goes back to the credibility, not to repeat myself, but that having that credibility helped us accelerate a lot of conversations and open more doors with potential partners and even potential clients who are now actual partners and clients since we've launched. So I think and we found beta testers through it too, which was great. People took us seriously when we said, hey, can you beta test this? And they wanted to know, what they were beta testing. We could say, well, we won this and you can look at our pitch here and some of the media we got from it. And people are like, oh, okay, I want to beta test that. That looks cool. So really every aspect, technological development, business development, was accelerated in some way by this competition. It was really the first large check into the company. So just about every single way transformed what we were doing at that moment.
So Melissa, same question. When a panel of industry experts that are judges say that, you know, you're the winner, what does that allow you to do quicker or at all that you wouldn't normally be able to?
I think for us, it really was around raising awareness of what we were doing. We were pretty small at the time, and while doing something that was very impactful, especially during COVID for pregnant women, it was hard to reach our target market. So it really was about bringing awareness. But I would say by having gone through the steps of the business plan, that gave me, again, the ability to go back and start actually fundraising more seriously with other investors. So I think it accelerated our ability, not only from the credibility perspective, but also the fact that I knew my numbers in and out and like could answer every question that an investor was asking me because I'd gone through the competition. So I would say, again, the awareness and marketing for sure. That was the most direct thing, but I think the indirect thing was the fact that we were able to go out and start really, really pitching and are very confident things are going pretty well thus far. So,
You know, I don't think the audience realizes how big a question that is, because when we get together as a judging panel, one of the conversations that we always have, if there's a lot of good entrants, is if this was the winner, what would being a finalist or a winner in the competition do to this business? And that's why we always enjoy hearing it, because, you know, just the fact that things can be sped up or that they can happen at all as a result of us giving a little bit of a boost. And that's really the goal of the competition. So we do enjoy hearing that. But which winnings were more, well, I can't say more, which winnings were especially helpful? How about we say that? The cash or the in-kind? Start with Melissa. Yeah.
So I'm still, since it happened in May, I'm still getting through the in-kind services, which have been amazing. We're actually based here at RI Hub, and we've had a number of conversations, open the doors, essentially just being here and being surrounded by the people here in this building. So we've been able to talk to investors, we've talked to people about strategic partnerships. So I really do think that the services are great, but the money went to work right away. So if I had to say at this point in time, I would say it was the money, but I think as I'm starting to go through all of the services, because I'm still working through all of them.
I owe you an email back. I know. Basically what you're
okay.
saying is I emailed you, you didn't get back to me the other day.
Yeah, but we're talking IP and things like that right now. So they're both very important, but I would say definitely the cash went to work right away.
So that's my shameless plug to say we've got some great sponsors, but if anybody in the audience knows of anybody else that would love to sponsor the competition, Beth is always willing to have conversations, and the more money we can raise, because we really are a community funded operation, the more money we can give out. Abbie, cash or the in-kind?
The in-kind services were wonderful, but definitely the cash. That it just, as I said before, it accelerated everything and was really wonderful and pivotal for us. The other thing that was helpful, which I don't know if this is continued as a partner of the Rhode Island Business Competition, but we got accelerated through Mass Challenge through their admissions program, which was hilarious to me because we had been denied in the first round of Mass Challenge of their application system. And they pushed us through straight to like the third round of the application. I don't remember exactly, but it was very, very funny to me because I was like, we kind of backdoored our way into the competition and ended up being a part of Mass Challenge that year, which was really, really wonderful. So that was another huge benefit in addition to the cash.
I pitched this morning.
Oh, amazing.
Mass Challenge for the finals or pre-final. I don't really know what layer I'm in right now, but I pitched this morning.
There's a lot of layers. Is it like the top 6 or the top? Okay, you know.
A judging panel of industry experts from the Rhode Island Business Competition. That's all you need to know. They put you there. Jonathan, how about yourself? The cash, the in-kind, both?
So certainly both, but unfortunately one of the downsides of hardware startups is they're incredibly expensive. Ultimately, you can't just code away. There are things you have to buy. There are things you have to assemble, and there are mistakes you have to make, and therefore throw the things you just bought away. So the money was invaluable. It really allowed us to actually finish off prototypes. One prototype that went to a customer, that then gives a huge amount of exposure, and ultimately that then enabled us to secure further on funding. So the initial funding allowed us then to, in an indirect way, close our seed round, which was really the start of it all, and we allowed us to take it off, and we're still riding the wave now.
So, you know, it's interesting hearing those challenges. Let's segue into that. What has been the greatest challenge of building a business to date? Yeah, think about that one. We'll go with Jonathan. We'll stay right with that because he's the one who brought up the challenges.
This has been a long challenge. So I'd say the continued duration. The idea for the company started back in 2015. And at that point, it was really just a dream. We kind of took inspiration from the automotive industry. We looked around, saw the likes of Tesla, Chevy bringing out electric vehicles. And as people who, we grew up on the water, I was a sailor when I was younger. And we looked around to see kind of what there was in the way of electrification, and really there was just no solution. So we kind of determined that there has to be a better way. So we questioned ourselves whether we were just being kind of naive, that there's actually there really is a reason why no one's done it up to now. We checked ourselves, kind of did the research, talked to professors. We confirmed that actually we think we can do it. 2 years passed, we're still working on it. Starts to make you doubt after a while, but you just kind of the commitment to keep going, and the belief that actually kind of just the hardest part is starting, and then just keeping going. So I'd say kind of just the fact that this is a mission that's going to take some time, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. But fortunately, having a team to do it with you makes it a whole lot easier. And so I'd say probably the hardest thing is actually finding the right people to work with, the people that you can lean on, rely on, and trust that they're going to kind of, when you're struggling to kind of keep going, that you don't know the answer, when investors are expecting you to always have the answer, there is someone else that you can kind of reach out to and work with. So I'd say probably finding a team has been one of the challenging things of building a company.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur is not easy. I mean, if you had the choice between having a job with a guaranteed paycheck or sleeping on your friend or parents' couch and eating ramen noodle, I mean, I don't know which one you would take, but definitely I'd sleep on my parents' couch and eat ramen noodle and try to build a business. Abbie, how about yourself? What's been the greatest challenge in continuing to build a business?
So I apologize if this answer is too vague, but for me, the greatest challenge that continues to be a challenge day to day is that as an entrepreneur, you constantly have to make decisions without all of the information you really feel that you need to make that decision. Whether it's because you don't have the time to go do 100 customer interviews, or because you don't have the money to buy that market report or the market research, you just don't always have all the information that you really want in order to feel as confident as you would like to be in the decisions that you're making. And that's just a constant thing you have to grapple with. And for me, one of the toughest. It does get better. I mean, you develop a strategy and you make decisions based on both that strategy and the information you have at hand. So ultimately there's more and more relief from that problem coming practically every day, but it's still, to me, one of the greatest challenges.
I think that's what separates an entrepreneur from a regular employee, is the ability to make decisions quickly. So that's a great point to hit on. How about Melissa, greatest challenge to date in building the business?
I think it goes along to what you said, which is like reacting to dynamics in the market. So since we've launched, Rhode Island has done something amazing, and they're actually going to make part of our services available through private insurance and Medicaid. So a doula bill was just passed a month ago. I was actually at the State House testifying for the doula bill in 2019, pre-COVID. So we believe in access to wellness, regardless of how you get it. But I think that's one of the challenges of being an entrepreneur, because immediately, so running through my mind, I'm like, oh, I got to think about my financial model. What does this mean? it's great. And then all of a sudden Blue Cross is reaching out and United's reaching out because they need access to dual. And we're just trying to like figure out what does this mean and we're still figuring it out right now. What does this actually mean for our business? So I think it's trying to continue operating while also trying to understand the things that are changing around you and how to be nimble enough to, take advantage of opportunities when they do open up like that. Versus at first I was like, oh my God, that's half my financial model. But now there's new opportunities that are presenting themselves. So I think it's really about being nimble and just understanding what's actually at play in the markets that you're in.
Thank you. So I hate this question when somebody asks it of me, so I'm going to ask it of you. What would you have done differently? Knowing everything you know now, what would you have done differently up to this point? And we'll go with Melissa. We'll stay with you.
Like in the competition or in the business?
In the business.
In the
Well,
business.
how about both?
I would say in the competition, I ended up pulling 2 all-nighters, which I had not done since college. So maybe if I had done a little bit more preparation ahead of time, I wouldn't have done that and gotten some more sleep. As far as what I would have done differently in the business, that's a tough one. We're so like, I guess if I had to choose anything, because one thing that we've been doing, we've been very much all about customer acquisition. And now we're starting to move those customers into the next phase of sharing out their registry, booking all of their services. And I kind of wish we had taken a step back and had like a more smaller pilot, more manageable pilot, where we work through all of those steps first and then apply that to a larger group. So I think we were so set on like, let's make as much of an impact as we can and help as many mothers as we can versus really focusing on, okay, what's going to drive behavior change at each one of these steps in our funnel, and then being able to apply that more broadly. So I would say if I had to choose, I would have done a little bit smaller of a pilot, proven those things out versus where we're at now, trying to figure out exactly what's going to drive those behavior changes further on down the line. I don't know if that's the type of.
That's great.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to do anything differently because you wouldn't be at this point if you did it differently. But everybody asked the question, so we'll ask you, Abbie, we're going to ask you the same question. What would you have done differently in the competition as well as in business up to date?
For the competition, I would have started writing the business plan earlier. The same advice I gave everyone else. That's definitely what I would have done. No all-nighters. I don't think I did an all-nighter, but it was probably a closer call than it should have been. And for my business, there's a couple things. First, I would like to tell my past self that technological development always takes longer than you think it's going to. I'm an engineer. My co-founder is an engineer. I should definitely know this, or at least one of the two of us should know this. But no matter how elegant you think your code is, it's going to be buggy. And that's just that. You have to budget more time than you would expect for technical development. And the other thing I would do differently is do a little more user testing right up front of every screen as we build it in the app, because no matter how clear you think the UI is and how much research you do about other UIs that could be a really good inspiration, people just can't find buttons, and people don't act the way you think they're gonna act when you put a screen in front of them. UI UX is a much bigger challenge than I ever realized it was going to be, and I would have addressed that more upfront like we do now.
Thank you. And Jonathan, same question. What would you have done differently in the competition as well as in business up to this point?
So maybe I could talk to more related to the business side. So after this company, our company started while we were in college, we graduated and realized that kind of we really didn't have much credibility in the way of kind of raising money, and that was definitely something that we were going to need to do. So we determined that actually the best call of action was to get some industry experience. So we went out. I got a job at a defense engineering firm out in Hawaii, actually. So it was we had a steady paying job for some period of time. So we were moonlighting, kind of working during the day for another company, and then at night working on Flux Marine. So it kind of seemed like it was a half comfortable position in that kind of we weren't struggling to eat, which was ultimately after we kind of left our jobs. that became the reality. But I think actually looking back, it was always going to be a difficult decision to leave, just kind of leave a somewhat place of comfort to kind of pursue Flux Marine full time. And that was something that's really needed. I think you really need to kind of commit fully to a startup to make it happen. And so I think we could have actually got away with leaving our jobs earlier, because when it came to it, we decided to leave about 2 weeks before COVID started, which could probably not have been a worse time to start fundraising. So it meant that we were not able to meet any of our investors in person, or at least for the most part. We met a few of them kind of socially distant, which does make it hard to raise. So I think if we had kind of taken the leap of faith a little bit earlier, we would have got to kind of meet potential investors earlier and would have made the whole raise just a little bit easier. So I think kind of just taking that leap of faith a little bit earlier would have done us a world of good.
Let's stay with that, Jonathan. Talk about the value of networking and communicating with advisors and investors, because the investing process, dealing with investors, that's kind of a interesting process, and it sounds like you and your team kind of had to do it virtually as well. So talk about the value of networking with advisors, as well as how you approach talking to investors.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated question, because I think ultimately networking has kind of mixed connotations, and the way that you approach it can have huge impacts about how it turns out. Because if you're actually going somewhere to network, to get things out of people, that can be a very detrimental way of going about it. I think if you go into it kind of looking to learn different things from different people, accepting that kind of there is something to learn from everyone, and ultimately if you're kind of open, humble enough, that then people will come out the woodwork. People help you in ways that you would never have foreseen. And actually our most valuable networking connections have been serendipitous, and it's just out of wanting to talk about it. We're passionate about it. We love to talk about it. Often we get told to shut up, stop talking about it, which is maybe a curse in a little bit, but I think networking is a very important thing. But I think most of all kind of just being passionate about it and kind of looking to learn from people is the best way to approach it, and kind of understanding that you got to take a pinch of salt with everyone's opinion. We've been told 99 times out of 100 that this is not going to work. So kind of accepting that, understanding that there's a little bit of truth in what everyone's saying, but you can learn something from everyone.
Interesting. And now, Abbie, when we talk about investors, I think you've got a different look at this as well, because you mentioned you got a grant, which is non-dilutive funding. So can you talk about the value of consulting with investors, as well as consulting with those that can make grants so that it's non-dilutive funding?
Yeah, sure. So to date, we've received $140,000 of non-dilutive grant funding and $40,000 dilutive convertible note investments. So we've done both, but definitely a lot more on the grant and the non-dilutive side of things, which I like a lot more. It's a little more, there's a little more time investment from at least what I've seen. But there's definitely a lot of networking that has to be done, a lot of emails that have to be sent and Zoom calls that have to be joined. It looks a lot different during COVID. For the larger two grants that we've received since the Rhode Island Business Competition, I haven't met any of the people who gave me the grant in person, despite the fact that I have spent many, many, many hours with all of them on Zoom. But there has really been tremendous value in making sure that, I'm constantly networking. It can be a little tiring. I'm an introvert for the most part. So getting on a Zoom call can definitely feel like a bit of a drag, but every time I've done it, it's been worth it. Another good little trick that I learned is at the end of every Zoom call with a new person, ask, do you know anyone who I should talk to? That almost never gets a no. Most people can think of someone that they're like, yeah, it'd be really good if I connected you with so-and-so. And that's been super valuable for me. And actually asking someone that led to one of the largest grants that we've received to date, which was a $50,000 grant from the NIH funded driven program. So there've really been there's been concrete impact of that. So networking is so important, as much as I find it super exhausting. Get comfortable with LinkedIn. Find some people who are really well connected, get to know them well, and be willing to send them emails practically daily saying, hey, can you connect me to so-and-so? I see you're connected to so-and-so on LinkedIn. I'd like to know them. I do a lot of that. So that's my advice.
Oh, you don't know if you don't ask, right? Melissa, let's stay with you on that question. Talk about the value of, working with your advisors, as well as interaction with investors, and what you think is the good and the bad.
So I agree with you, and I'm an extrovert, but it is overwhelming. There's a lot, like through Mass Challenge, we have advisors, through Rhode Island Business Competition, obviously, through there was Neutrogena, I Fund Women that we won as well. And so I felt like we were collecting advisors. So I think every single one of them had a lot of something of value, but I do think you have to be efficient with your time. So like setting up an hour meeting with these people, I mean, they're busy as well. So I think being very efficient with the time that you have, and say, maybe we can do like a 15-minute stand-up or something like that, and set like goals ahead of time on like what you want to talk to them about, has been very, very valuable, because otherwise you'll end up in like lengthy conversations about the weather and all that stuff, which you do, want to make connections, but I think you do want to be efficient as well. I would also say I underestimated how large my network was. So it wasn't until I was out starting to have these conversations that I realized somebody I knew somebody else. And that was the person who put me in touch with 5 VCs. And they never, like, we didn't know each other really well. We knew somebody through a mutual friend, versus my like best friend who's just raised $60 million and is CEO of a company, hasn't yet made any introductions. You just don't know, like within your own network, how large it is and how many people you can actually connect to within your own network. So I would say start with your own, and then definitely pick advisors wisely. Think about the challenges that you have. Like I think about my team, and my team is very clinical focused. So we have a lot of clinicians on our advisory board, and we have a head of the director of midwifery is our clinical officer. And then we have a lot of people in marketing. So finance, fundraising, there are like a couple of gaps that we had in our team. And usually I would use the opportunity with the advisors to find people who filled in those gaps. So I would think about it that way as well. But yeah, so exhausting, but definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, you never know. I was at a breakfast last week, and this attorney's telling me about this great company that he's working with, startup. And as he's telling me about the company, I'm like, this sounds really familiar. And he's like, and I can't wait to introduce you to Melissa. And I'm like, yes. Yeah.
So one thing I will say is actually all the people within the services that you win, all of them are connected to you. Like Dan, I was talking to him about IP, and then all of a sudden he's like, you need to talk to Summer Infant, and you need to talk to the head of Delta Dental. And I'm like, for what? And and so all of a sudden there's like these great connections that we were just talking about an IP strategy to start with. So I would say everybody on that list is very embedded. They're very committed to helping you as a startup or as a business. And you don't realize they're connected to everybody in Rhode Island. So definitely don't just chat about the one topic, but see what else you can, get connected to through the people on that list. Sorry, jumping in, but
that's
that
great.
reminded me.
I enjoy hearing it's, I think you're all hitting on an important point though. You said you're extroverts. I disagree. I think we all think we're extroverts, but I think I'm an extrovert. But what work habits or personal traits do you think that an entrepreneur needs? I mean, you're all entrepreneurs, and we talked about all-nighters, so clearly diligence and time management skills is one of them. But what work habits or traits do you think are really important for an entrepreneur to be successful? We'll start with you, Jonathan.
I would say schedule. That's something that I kind of grew up with. Sport was something that was a very important part of my life growing up. And I think the skills that I learned, that kind of sticking to a schedule, working towards a long-term goal. Often we might have a race kind of 12 months in the future, and kind of working towards that, knowing that kind of in the depths of winter, when you're kind of in a workshop down in East Greenwich and the heating's not on, you have a space heater to keep you warm. Knowing that you're working towards something larger. goes a long way and kind of keeps you motivated. And I think one good way to do that is kind of keeping a schedule. Often as an entrepreneur, it's quite hard to turn off. I find that I'll go to sleep and I will literally dream of boats and there's no escaping it. I'll dream that I've bought a competitor's motor by accident, because who does that? And so kind of keeping a schedule, learning, kind of setting aside time. For me, exercise is what gives me time to switch off. And so I think kind of finding what allows you to switch off is so important, because otherwise you'll just be quite literally 24/7 thinking about your startup. And that's the fastest way to burn out.
And that's crazy, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs I've talked to over the last 18 months that were stuck home in like a, 4-wall building, just worked and burnt themselves out because there was no switch off. Abbie, how about yourself?
So this might sound bad, but I think every entrepreneur has to be a little stubborn, and importantly, not too stubborn. But you hear a lot of negativity pretty frequently when you're talking to people and contacting everyone you can get in touch with to expand your network. A lot of people are going to tell you that your idea will not work. And that's fine. You should hear them out, because you're going to get something valuable out of it, or you're going to learn a new way to pitch it so that that concern isn't brought up, or you're going to learn how to address that concern head on. So you should totally hear those people out. But ultimately, you need to be pretty stubborn that your idea is going to work and is the right idea that's going to solve that solution, or that, whatever iteration of that idea you come up with. You need a little bit of stubbornness, in addition to the perseverance, which is totally necessary when people are telling you your idea is bad and you're looking at your business checking account and realizing you're not going to make or that you only have 1 or 2 more months that you're going to make payroll. You need the perseverance and the stubbornness that you are going to make that sale, or you are going to get that grant, and that your idea is going to work. There's a little bit of both stubbornness and perseverance.
Let's spin it a little different, because stubbornness makes you sound bad. Let's call it eternal optimism. Yeah,
that does sound better.
Sounds much better.
That does sound better, but to me, I definitely think it's the stubbornness. I'm gonna reframe it as that. We'll rebrand it, but we all know what it means secretly now. This is a.
Melissa, how about yourself?
So I would say problem solving. I feel like as an entrepreneur, there's constant problems being solved, whether it's business problems, market problems, personnel problems. There's always something new coming up. And instead of thinking, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? Seeing every single one of those as a new opportunity, a new challenge. And some of our best ideas, best pivots in our business have come from things that immediately looked like it was a challenge that was going to shut down our business. So I think it's perseverance and being able to really take on all those challenges in stride and think about it as a problem solving. I'm an engineer too, so I tend to love problem solving, but I do think that's a critical skill set. And then I would say the time management piece. I still struggle with that. I have, 2 kids at home that are 4 and 7. I'd like to pay attention to them sometimes too. So I think that's a constant struggle, as well as how to manage the balancing it all, which I feel like you can't have everything all at once. Something's got to give at certain times, and you just work with, your family. Like my husband, he's such a big support system. Actually, I'm supposed to be coaching my kids right now, so he's coaching the kids for me. So you just figure out how to balance those things. So I gave 2 things, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. You can give as many as possible, but I like the fact that we're going down this really negative road. Why would you want to be an entrepreneur? So let's spin it. What's been the biggest positive so far to being an entrepreneur? And Melissa, we'll stay with you, because you brought up some of the recent challenges, but what's the biggest positive?
I think it's the impact that we've had. So through COVID, we were able to educate over 1,200 families, and now we've got people moving through the registry, getting the support that they so desperately need. So hearing from our customers, the impact that we're having either through our educational programs or through the services that we have on our site is what makes my day. So when you get a message or somebody saying I was really having a rough time and I didn't know where to turn. And now I've got an amazing doula who's going to support me through the birth. And I was really nervous. I mean, those are the things that I think make it all worth it. So I think it's, again, that impact that we're having on the customer. And I really think we're going to change maternal health care. I know people are like, it's a baby registry, but that's a means to an end. We're really looking to make wellness accessible to all moms. And as long as I keep that as my focus, it keeps motivating me through those challenges.
Thank you. Abbie, same question. What's been the biggest positive to being an entrepreneur?
For me, it's the independence. I don't really like to be told what to do. So I don't like to be told what to do without also understanding and identifying with the reason to do that. So being an entrepreneur, I get to decide why I'm doing things and definitely identify with that reason why. And then I get to go do it. I control my schedule and also the variety. That's another huge positive. Every day is different. I do something pretty much totally different nearly every single day. And that's awesome. I never have the same schedule, which is, it's great for me. I know it's not for everyone, but I really value that independence and the variety for my own personal life. And then definitely the impact, which we launched the product to the public in March, so we're only just starting to see. But it's been really exciting. Every new great testimonial we get, I get to throw it on the website and just be really happy that we're making people's lives easier and making people safer every single day is really, really exciting to me. So for me, impact is huge. Defining my reason why, the independence and the variety are the biggest positives.
So Jonathan, close us out strong here. What is the biggest positive to being an entrepreneur?
No pressure. I would say it's probably twofold. First of all, kind of just being part of something larger. I think a company, we really are kind of greater than the sum of its parts. And I think that's really important. I think it brings value to kind of go to work each day. And I think the other side is the fact that I think I wake up every morning and I am thankful the fact that I found something that I enjoy and I've found a way to make money out of that. And I look around my friends, I look up to people who are far older than me, and I think it's unfortunate that a lot of people go to work and they use that as a way to survive. And I think kind of the most important thing for me is to do something that I love doing and then make money doing it. And then on top of that, we're able to kind of help the environment. That's something that's very important to me. Being surrounded by the water, I think the oceans really don't get enough appreciation. I think just their size, their magnitude, it's easy to overlook. But I mean, they're kind of a buffer for the world, for the CO2 absorption. So I think just being able to do our small part to help that and know that kind of we're leaving the world in a slightly better place than we left it. I think that's a goal that I think everyone should have. But that's something that I have for myself, and I think that I'm doing my small part to help that.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up the questions to the audience. So if you have a question, if you just raise your hand, if anyone wants to ask one of our esteemed panelists a question. Sure. We'll start with Melissa.
So I joined the competition a little bit later, so I think I missed some of the early opportunities to work with the pitch, like some of the pitch work and stuff, which I think would have been really, really helpful. But I think through the winnings, we've now had mentorship through Annette here at Rhode Island Hub. She's connected us with so many people. She's invited us to be part of the Rhode Island Rhode Island Entrepreneurs Week. What is the Startup Week? Thank you. Rhode Island Startup Week. And so I think, again, that's opened up a lot of opportunities. So in that sense, it was a lot of looking through our executive summary, helping us refine things so that it was more appealing to investors in Rhode Island because she had been through it before. So a lot of it was in the investment vein. I did mention Dan as well, and Steve, I think, is the other lawyer, so they can help you with IP. So I think there's just a really good, you've got accounting, which I still struggle with. I may obviously need to talk to you. It just really depends on what your needs are. But I've seen obviously legal support, accounting support, fundraising support so far through working through some of the services that are available. But I don't know, as far as like what you can access before you win, I'm curious about that.
So I'll defer to Beth on that. We have a great website that has a lot of resources, and it's kind of one of the hubs in Rhode Island for entrepreneurship. So I think that's the best place to start.
Yes, absolutely.
I will add that we do hope to have a full calendar of events this year, and we're hoping to do many of them in person, if not all, including our pitch contest, as well as our workshop on pitches, as well as we typically do a workshops tied to investing and finding funds or thereabouts, something around there. Stealing Beth's thunder. Abbie, did you want to jump in on that?
Sure. I mean, I think that was a very thorough answer. However, I'll add that through Mass Challenge, which we got access to through Rhode Island Business Competition, the network of advisors and mentors there is incredible. It's kind of insane. It took me like a day to comb through everyone and like look at their LinkedIns and see who would be the most valuable for us, which in the end was totally worth it because we were able to identify exactly who was going to be the best mentor. I think we identified 3 people, all of whom agreed to mentor us. And they came up with incredible ideas that I think would have taken my co-founder and I longer to identify. Like we weren't thinking at all about working with channel partners, and it was a mentor that we got through them that told us, hey, you should consider channel partners. And now that's one of the biggest parts of our business model and represents a lot of our revenue and is probably what's going to get us to break even in the next couple months. So there are incredible mentors out there. And we access some of ours through both Rhode Island Business Competition and through Mass Challenge also.
Jonathan, would you care to add anything?
Absolutely. So I think you covered it very well. More kind of specifically to us. For us, we kind of raising money is a very daunting experience. Kind of they're very intelligent. They're asking very difficult questions. But for us, kind of the Slated Technology Fund, they were the ones who actually kind of introduced us to the Rhode Island Business Plan Competition, and just kind of dropping the curtain a little bit in terms of kind of the whole investment process, working with us over a longer period of time to kind of explain the process, kind of their thoughts, their hesitations, who they'd be interested in introducing us to as kind of a technical deep dive. That went a really long way into kind of understanding the thought process from the other side of the table, so that kind of when we go on building up for a further investment round, it kind of gives you a clearer idea of kind of how they see you and how you're being perceived. Because we're telling a story of how it came about and our dream for what we want it to be, but that may not be what the investors are hearing. So kind of learning the nuances of that was really a truly valuable experience. And even today, we've kind of continued to stay in contact with them, and they're always great help.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. So the question is, what do you think had the biggest impact? What was the thing that was the biggest impact that allowed you to win the competition? Okay. Anyone want to?
That might be a question for you.
Maybe a question for me. I'll tell you one of the things that the judges always look at. And we changed the name of the competition several years ago. It used to be the Rhode Island Business Plan Competition. And one of the things, and it's funny to hear you say that you were up late at night to actually write the business plan. We're not grading it based upon, your grammar or how well the plan is. What we're really looking for is this a viable business? Is this got that, I don't want to call it, like there's a lot of niceties out there. Is this not necessarily a necessity, but something that will have the ability to scale up, something that will have the ability to have employees and be successful? And does the team and the founder really have that it factor? And when I say the it factor, and hopefully everyone in the audience can see here tonight, the it factor, I think, is passion. When you watch people and you talk about their business, and this is why after we have people fill out the application and we read the business plans, we have them come in as part of the process, the finalists and the semifinalists, and do a quick 5-minute pitch as to why they think their business is going to be successful. and it's the passion. And I think, you know, so when you ask me that question is what makes somebody win it, it's the passion to, you say you're helping people, and the business is secondary. You know, there's something there that says this is going to be successful because of this person, or because of, you know, their drive, or, you know, their connection to what the business does. And so I think if you asked me over the years watching people win, why do they win? You know, there's some products that have won, or companies that have won, that they're not really exciting. And you're like, oh, how do you get passionate about this? It's because the founder has a connection to it and can explain it to you and make it sound like, wow, this is really a necessity, or really something that is going to be successful. So that's my take on it. I don't know if anybody has anything different.
No, I was curious. I think that if I had to guess, that's what I would say it was. It's like a connection to your business and passion, no matter what, you're going to make it work. And I think even investors look at it that way too. They're looking at, can this person, they're so driven by their idea, no matter what that gets thrown at them, they're going to figure out a way to make it work. And I think that's what people are looking for out of your pitch. I mean, your business plan, all of those things. It should just exude the passion you have for what you're doing.
I would also add coachability, because, you know, as we talk about, and we add about, you know, advisors, if a founder, you know, everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. You're never going to fix somebody's weaknesses. But if you can accentuate their strengths and maximize their strengths, and find somebody whose strength may overlap your weakness. So when we look at it, it's like, okay, what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses, and can't change the weakness, but do they have something that can cover their weakness? And usually the biggest thing we see is the founder's not coachable. They think they can do it all. They think they can do the financial projections. They think they can do the beta testing. They think they can do it all. And if they're coachable, where they can bring in one of these experts and listen to them, that's kind of that passion too. I don't know if you want to add something.
I definitely agree. You have to know your weaknesses and be open to other people's opinions, in addition to the drive and the fact that you are going to make it happen no matter what, which to me is a stubborn quality, but we're rebranding it. It's eternal optimism. But it's you definitely have to know your weaknesses and be willing to take advice from wherever it comes. And I got this might be a tangent, but I got a really, really great piece of advice right when starting the company that was treat every opinion like a data point, and then gather out the bigger picture from there. And that was just a phenomenal piece of advice. Because from a scientific perspective, I was like, oh, that means I need a lot of opinions to have statistically significant data. And then just from a broader perspective, that's a really, really helpful thing to hear, because not one person's opinion isn't going to make or break your company necessarily. And then I might add that one thing that I would imagine helped us convey that we were viable is just how many user interviews we did, how well we knew our customer, how much segmentation we had done with our markets. We really knew those things cold. And I think that probably made its way into the business plan. And I'd like to think we were passionate while giving the pitch. I hope so. I could talk about CPR for hours. I could probably give like a detailed 6-hour speech about CPR regulations right now. I don't think anyone wants that, but I could. So I imagine that energy and passion was in the pitch.
Jonathan, did you want to add anything, or you think they covered it?
I think you answered it perfectly. You drink first.
I could do a 6-hour session on accounting. I'm sure that's just as riveting.
I would like to know more about taxes. So actually, that'd be helpful.
Bring in an expert.
We have, it's scary.
That's not me. Any other questions? Does anybody have a subscription model? And I think where you're going with this is a lot of the valuation models are built now on subscription-based companies. So that makes sense?
Yeah, so we don't have a subscription in any sort of traditional way. We do have renewals because CPR certifications expire. So not a traditional subscription, but still a recurring revenue piece to look at, which I think is most of the value in a subscription model, is the promise of recurring revenue. So that's helpful for us. And then most of the businesses we work with, they hire new people, or there's turnover, so they continue to stick with us and make purchases month to month. So again, not a subscription, but monthly revenue we can count on, which is great. So that no subscription model, but some of the more key elements of why a subscription model is good, we have.
I can add on to that. So I think it's a great question to bring up because certainly investors love subscription models. Just recurring revenue is kind of music to their ears. So I think we are a primarily based product company. So the point of sale is our main source of revenue. But we are a technology company who sells boats. So we can kind of speak to all the different assets or facets of the technology that allow us to implement a subscription-based service after the initial point of sale. So kind of all the advancement technology, tracking services, fleet management systems. If you have multiple boats, we can enable that and then add that on as an additional source of revenue stream, which to potential investors is certainly they love to hear it.
So it's interesting. I got this question today from the Mass Challenge pitch that I did. Like, where's your subscription? I don't think you should build a business around a way of like a specific way of monetizing the business. I think if you have a good business, like the way we're looking at ours, it's like it's a short period of time that somebody's in our platform, right? They're pregnant through to postpartum, but they're spending a lot of money at that time to support their family. So we don't have a subscription service right now. Maybe in the future we do. So we always kind of leave the door open because we have amazing experts that we can certainly sell some of that education. But right now it's very critical for us for that education to be free because it's a customer acquisition tool. And it's addressing disparity in healthcare right now because everyone has access to it. So that's just part of our mission. I don't know. I get a little frustrated when that question comes up so often because I don't think that you should try to craft a business around a specific way of making money. I think it's whatever model works for your business is the way you should build it and the way your customers are going to want to interact with it. So just a different perspective.
I think it depends. I mean, you look at Zoom right now. I mean, it went like this, and now how many people have Zoom accounts because we're back in person? Trying to be optimistic. Eternally. Any other questions at this time from the audience?
So I have a co-founder who I actually met through Social Enterprise Greenhouse many years ago through Rhode Island. So I'm loving Rhode Island. He's not as accessible as like somebody. It's not somebody that I like live with or, talk to every single night. We meet weekly. And so I rely heavily on my husband as well. And I kind of bounce stuff off of him a lot, even though he's, kind of like a behind the scenes on the business. So I do think it's important to have they don't have to be your co-founder or partner in the business, but somebody that you can talk to regularly and bounce ideas off of. It was super valuable for me to have that because it's mostly me running the business at this point in time. So
my co-founder and I met in college. We actually met the very first day of our introduction to engineering class, our freshman year, which was great. We started a student group, a club together. So we knew we worked well together, and we started the business our junior year, so 2 years later. And it's been pretty smooth sailing. We think very differently. I am a divergent thinker. He's a convergent thinker, and that's really great for us. You want a co-founder who thinks differently. You don't want to agree on everything because then you'll never consider other perspectives. And that's been really, really valuable for us.
I think it's just important to know that you can work well together. So for us, we did a business accelerator back when we were in college. So that kind of gave us an opportunity to kind of vet out whether this is going to be a viable thing, that kind of whether we work together. But on top of that, is having an understanding of kind of the problem, the root cause and the thesis for the whole company, kind of why you started it. And it's important for kind of everyone on board to kind of have first-hand experience with that, at least for us, because it kind of really gives motivation and it gives a deeper understanding of kind of why you're doing it and the need for the solution in the long run.
And I grew up in a family business, and my father fired me every Monday and my mother rehired me every Tuesday. And I can tell you that the holidays are kind of fun. So moral of the story is it's always better to choose people that you work well with and not friends and family to go into business together. I think anyway. Any other questions? Anybody want to tackle that one regarding their first adopter?
Sure. So our first business user was a warm connection through Brown. And she beta tested it. So she had kind of been with us from the start of the product, and she saw firsthand how much better it got from our beta test to our release. And she trusted the person who connected us with her, and then she saw the improvement. We were able to articulate the value well to her. And now her business is using it pretty consistently. I don't remember exactly how many people we've certified through them, but it's been a lot. It's been really, really great. So that was our first user, first adopter, but first like big supporter was a physician we brought the idea to. So they pay to use it. And I mean, we did the beta for free, but it was just her. We gave her free access for one certificate for a trial. And since then, all of the employees she's certified with us have been paid. I think it's somewhere around like 40 or 50 employees now.
Our first user, which probably doesn't count, was our employee, which was really cool to have her have the first Flourish Fund and get the support she needed through her pregnancy and delivery. So she's, biggest advocate. But after that, it actually came from our provider network. So we had been building out, this 155 providers, and it turned out some of them were pregnant. So they wanted to try out the service. And that's actually how we secured our first customers, was through our own provider network, which was kind of awesome. And now obviously grown from there. But
our first paying customer was the East Bay Sailing Foundation. And they're really kind of they're a nonprofit foundation, and they were looking to build a sustainable green coaching boat. So they kind of had very much the same firsthand experiences that we had when we decided to start the company. We were looking around the marine industry, looking for an alternative solution for combustion engines, and really there's no true alternative. So they've done the same thing. They've done very similar market research, compared the same companies that we had. They'd actually done a lot of testing because they're a larger foundation than kind of just a student group. They were able to kind of get a few to test out, and there was really they would offer one product and it would very much underperform. So we did one demonstration of one of our early prototypes. It was the first electric boat he'd ever seen go over 20 miles an hour, and we want to work with you. So it's we actually had spent a long time building up a prototype. It was by no means perfect, but it was enough to kind of show that we had the underlying fundamental technology. And then we've continued to work with them, and we've gone through a second phase, and we're actually building a second boat for them now.
Are there any other questions at this time from the audience? Well, at this time, I'd like to thank everybody for their time and attention, as well as our three amazing panelists this evening: Melissa Bowley from Flourish Fund, Abbie Kohler from ResusciTech, and Jonathan Lord from Flux Marine. I'd like to also thank the Bryant University social media team for working their magic tonight to get the word out about the Rhode Island Business Competition, as well as all of our sponsors that make this possible. Beth, did you want to say a few words? So I'd like to have Beth do some housekeeping and tell us all about the wonderful events coming up. Thank you all.
Anyway, thank you so much for all of you coming tonight. we did revamp our website just a little over a year ago. So at 2:00 in the morning, if you're trying to think about what resources you need for your business, we do have a great resource tab. There's links to all different types of things. Our next event is October 21st. Peter George is going to be speaking on how to perfect your pitch. As I mentioned, he has spoken last year to us. He's a communications specialist and a pitch expert. People find it very, very valuable, and it sets you up to participate in our pitch contest in November. So we hope you all will participate in all of that. And please spread the word too, because the more the merrier. We hope to see you in person then. And I hope you all have a great night. And thanks so much for coming. It means a lot to all of us. So thank you.